Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to tackle a subject that I think a massive percentage of the population, and honestly, even a large percentage of the crypto-native population, gets completely wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about the fundamental nature of blockchain privacy.
It is easily the most pervasive myth in the entire digital asset space. It's almost foundational to how people are introduced to it, and it's not true.
Right. It's the first thing people say.
Yeah.
If you went out to a coffee shop right now, or even walked onto the floor of a tech conference, and you grabbed a random person and asked them, hey, why do criminals use Bitcoin? Or why do governments get nervous about crypto? What is the answer you are going to get? 9 times out of 10.
They will say, because it's anonymous, they'll say it's secret internet money.
Exactly. They think it's digital cash in a brown paper bag. A transaction happens in the dark and disappears forever. And today, we are going to completely dismantle that idea.
We have to.
Because we have a stack of documents here focusing on the Antelope ecosystem. So, chains like Telos and EOSIO, and specifically a project called CLOAK Protocol. But before we can even talk about the solution, we have to terrify everyone with the reality of the problem.
Terrify is a strong word, but honestly, looking at this first source we have, it's an infographic titled Public Traceability. Yeah, it's the appropriate word. It really is.
Let's look at this image then. It paints a picture that is the exact opposite of anonymity. It calls the current state of blockchain public traceability.
Which is a very polite, sterile way of saying total surveillance. It really is. The image uses a very specific visual metaphor here that I think is incredibly powerful, the panopticon.
Okay, I remember reading about this in a philosophy class, but for the listener who maybe skipped that day, let's unpack the panopticon. What are we looking at here? What does that mean?
So the panopticon was a prison design proposed by Jeremy Bentham way back in the 18th century. The concept is simple, but frankly chilling. Imagine a circular building. All the prison cells are arranged in a ring around the outside. The walls facing the center are transparent or just open bars, and right in the very center of that circle, there's a single guard tower.
And the trick is the lighting, right? Or the lack of it.
Exactly. The guard tower is backlit, or it has blinds or one-way glass. The point is, the prisoners can never actually see the guard. They never know if the guard is looking at them specifically at any given moment, or if he's asleep or looking at someone else.
But they know he could be.
They know that the guard can see them at any moment. The result is that the prisoners have to behave as if they are being watched 24/7. They internalize the surveillance, they police themselves.
And in this infographic, the guard isn't a person in a tower. It's everybody. It's the public ledger.
Precisely. On a public blockchain like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or the standard Antelope chains, the ledger is the panopticon. Every single transaction is broadcast globally. It is permanently, immutably etched into the history of the network. There are cameras and eyes, to use the source's imagery, pointing at every single wallet address all the time.
But here is where the skeptic in me comes out, and this is the argument I hear all the time. People say, sure, the transaction is public, but my name isn't on it. It's just a string of random characters. It's 0 by 734.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I am anonymous.
Right, and that is the dangerous assumption. That is pseudonymity, not anonymity. And in the age of big data and chain analytics, pseudonymity is a paper-thin shield. It's almost meaningless.
Let's play a game. Let's create a scenario to show just how fragile that shield is. Let's say I'm a bad actor. I'm a chain sleuth, as they call them. And I see you at a crypto conference. You buy a coffee with crypto.
Okay.
I'm standing behind you in line, and I see you scan the QR code. Or maybe it's even simpler. Maybe I just see you post your wallet address on Twitter for a giveaway or an NFT drop. That's it. That's my starting point. What can I actually find out?
Okay, let's trace it. This is a great exercise. You bought the coffee. I now have your wallet address. That's my thread. I pull on it. I plug that address into a Block, Explorer, Etherscan, Telescan, whatever, which is public and free for anyone to use. I scroll back through your history. Okay, I see that 3 days ago, you moved 5,000 USDT into this wallet. Where'd it come from? I click the link for the sending address. It came from a centralized exchange hot wallet. Let's say it's a known Coinbase or Binance wallet address.
So now you know I use Coinbase. You have my exchange of choice.
Right. Which already tells me something about your jurisdiction, probably. But I can now also target you with very convincing phishing emails pretending to be Coinbase support. But I dig deeper. I look at the timestamps on all your transactions.
Okay, what did I tell you?
I see that your transactions almost always happen between 8:00 a.m. and 10:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's very little activity outside that window.
So you know my time zone. You know where I live, roughly, on the planet.
roughly. But then I see a recurring monthly payment every single month on the 1st. You send exactly $2,500 worth of USDC to a specific address, like clockwork, probably. So I look up that receiving address, and I see it has a high volume of incoming payments, all around the same amount, all on the 1st of the month. I Google the address. It turns out it's a known wallet for a large property management company in Brooklyn.
Now, you know I pay rent in Brooklyn. You're getting my physical location.
And then I see you bought an NFT, a specific Bored Ape, or maybe a gaming item. I look up the metadata of that NFT, and maybe you use that NFT as your profile picture on social media, like on Twitter or Discord.
A lot of people do. It's the whole point.
Boom! I'm done. I have your face, your Twitter handle, your physical location, your email provider, and this is the really crucial part, your total net worth on chain.
Balance is visible. That's one of the bullet points in the source. Right there in big letters.
I can see exactly how much money you have. Just think about this for a second. Imagine walking down the street with your bank balance tattooed on your forehead.
I would never leave the house.
That is what you are doing on a public blockchain. You are broadcasting your wealth to every scammer, every marketer, every jealous neighbor on the planet.
And the source mentions financial history is exposed. So it's not just what I have now, it's everything I've ever done with that wallet.
Every trade. Every bad investment you made in 2021, every donation to a political cause, which can be very sensitive, every payment to a medical provider. If that medical provider's wallet is tagged or known, I now have an idea of what doctors you see, what conditions you might have.
Blah.
It is on-chain activity linked to your identity through simple, free behavioral analysis. You are living in a glass house.
That metaphor really sticks. We built this incredible financial system, this future of money, but we built it with glass walls. Everyone can see what we're eating for dinner, who we're paying, what we own.
And for a long time, people just accepted that as the price of admission. The common wisdom was if you want decentralization, if you want trustlessness, you have to give up privacy. It was a trade-off.
But that brings us to the topic of today's deep dive, the solution to that trade-off. We are looking at CLOAK Protocol.
The curtains for the glass house.
Exactly. So looking at the mission statement here in the tech source and that first infographic, CLOAK is defining itself as the privacy layer for Antelope blockchains.
And that phrasing is very, very specific, layer. It's not a separate privacy coin that lives on its own isolated island, which is what we're used to.
Right. That's the old model, isn't it? Like Monero or Zcash.
Yeah.
They are their own blockchains. If I want privacy, I have to leave the Ethereum ecosystem or the Telos ecosystem, go to an exchange, convert my money into this other, weird coin, and go hide in the dark over there.
Exactly. And when you do that, you usually lose functionality. Those privacy chains are often slower. They don't have robust smart contracts. You can't run a complex decentralized finance app on Monero easily. CLOAK is trying to flip the script. They are building a layer on top of existing high-performance chains.
Specifically Antelope chains like Telos and EOSIO. So
Right.
why those chains? What's the benefit there?
Speed and cost. It's that simple. Antelope chains are known for being incredibly fast. We're talking half-second block times, thousands of transactions per second, and having very low or even zero transaction fees for the end user.
Which is a huge deal if you're doing complex cryptographic computations.
A massive deal. So CLOAK's logic is, we want the privacy of Zcash, but we want it to move at the speed of a Visa swipe, and we don't want it to cost you $5 every time you do something.
That's the holy grail they're chasing. The source material highlights the core promise, which is confidentiality without giving up the benefits of smart contracts. Usually has to pick one. You can have privacy, or you can have programmable money. CLOAK says, why not both?
It's ambitious. Extremely ambitious.
So today we are going to map this out, and we need to go deep because the tech here is fascinating and, frankly, a bit mind-bending. We're going to look at Section 1, the tech under the hood. We're going to talk about zero-knowledge proofs, which, yes, sounds like magic, but is actually just very clever math.
Very, very clever math.
Then we'll look at how they hide DApp interactions, which, frankly, seems impossible to me right now. We'll look at the wallet and the specific hurdles of the Antelope account system. And finally, and this is maybe the most important part, we'll talk about selective disclosure, how to keep the regulators happy while keeping yourself private.
Which is the hardest balance to strike in the entire industry right now. That's the tightrope walk.
It is, but let's start with the math. Or rather, let's start with the concept so we don't bore everyone to tears with algebra. Section 1, the tech under the hood.
Let's do it.
The big question I always have with privacy on a blockchain is the paradox of verification. A blockchain is a verification machine. Its whole job is to prove that I have 5 Bitcoin before I send you 5 Bitcoin. It prevents double spending.
It's a truth machine. That's its purpose.
Right. So if I hide my balance and I hide the transaction amount, how does the network know I'm not just printing fake money out of thin air? How does it maintain the truth?
It sounds like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it? Verify what you can't see. It's a logical puzzle. And the solution relies on a cryptographic breakthrough called zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs. The source specifically mentions they are using Groth16 ZK snarks.
Bless you.
I know, it's a mouthful. You don't need to remember the name. Groth16 is just a specific, highly efficient version of this math. But let's step away from the jargon. We need an analogy here because this is conceptual gymnastics.
Please.
The infographic uses the imagery of a shield. You see these glowing blue shields everywhere in the art.
Yeah, that's a good visual.
And the shield is a good start. Imagine you have a secret document, let's say a transaction receipt, that says, I have 10 coins and I'm sending 2. You put that receipt inside a titanium box. That's the shield. You lock the box with a very special kind of lock. You hand the box to the blockchain validators.
Okay, they have my locked box.
They cannot open the box. They cannot see the receipt. But because of the way the lock is constructed, that's the Groth16 math, they can run a test on the lock itself. And that test will come back green if and only if the box contains a valid receipt. They can verify the contents without ever seeing them.
That helps a little, but it still feels like magic. How can you verify a box contains a valid receipt if you can't see it? Let's try to make it even simpler. I've heard the Waldo analogy is good for this.
Oh, the Where's Waldo analogy is perfect for zero-knowledge proofs. It's the best one I've ever heard for explaining the core concept. Let's walk through that.
Okay, lay it on me.
Imagine you and I are looking at a massive, complicated Where's Waldo poster. You know the kind, thousands of tiny people, chaos everywhere.
I do.
I claim to you, I have found Waldo.
And being a skeptic, I say, I don't believe you. Show me.
But here's the problem. If I point to him, if I put my finger on the map, I have revealed his location. Now you know where he is. I have given up the secret. I want to prove to you that I know where he is without showing you where he is. That's the challenge.
Zero knowledge of the location, but proof of the finding. I get it.
Exactly. So here's what I do. I go into a back room. I take a giant sheet of cardboard, much bigger than the poster. I cut a tiny little hole in the center of the cardboard, just big enough for Waldo's face to show through.
Okay, I'm with you.
I place the cardboard over the poster, positioning the hole exactly over Waldo. Then I call you back into the room. You look at the giant sheet of cardboard. All you can see is, through that tiny hole, Waldo's face.
Okay, I see him. He's there.
So you have absolute 100% mathematical proof that I found him, and you have absolute proof that he is somewhere in that picture. But because the cardboard covers everything else, you have no context. You have zero knowledge of his location. You don't know if he's in the top left, the bottom right, near the circus tent, or by the beach.
I see the result, the proof, but I don't see the coordinates, the data.
That is a zero-knowledge proof. In the case of CLOAK, the cardboard is the complex mathematics. The network looks at the proof I generate and says, yes, the math checks out. This proves this user has the funds, and this proves they have the private key to authorize the transaction. But the network has no idea who the user is or how much money is involved.
That is actually incredibly cool. It's elegant. It allows the blockchain to remain a truth machine without being a surveillance machine.
Exactly. It validates the validity of the transaction, not the content of the transaction. It's a fundamental shift.
Now, I want to clear up a massive misconception right away, because we have to do this. When people hear privacy tool in crypto, their brains immediately go to one place. Mixers.
Tornado Cash.
Right. They think of these services where hackers go to watch their stolen funds. The narrative is already set. So is CLOAK just another mixer?
No. And the sources are very, very emphatic about this distinction. If you look at the FAQ infographic, it asks the question directly, is CLOAK a mixer? And there is a big, bold, red X, no.
Okay, so what is the difference? Because to a regulator or a skeptic on the outside looking in, hiding money is hiding money. Why is this architecturally and philosophically different from a mixer?
Think about the mechanics. A mixer is like a tumbling service. You take a bunch of coins from user A, user B, and user C. You throw them all into a big pot, a smart contract pool. You shake the pot, you jumble them all around, and then later user A pulls out an equivalent amount of coins, but they are technically different coins than the ones they put in.
It breaks the on-chain link by mixing your money with a crowd of other people's money.
Exactly. It's privacy through obscurity and commingling. The problem with mixers is that they're often clumsy. They're usually distinct services you have to visit. The action itself of, I am going to the mixer now, is a suspicious flag on chain. And more importantly, you often end up with tainted coins, coins that might have been used in a hack previously.
Right, you might withdraw coins that, some state-sponsored hacking group put in 10 minutes ago, and now your address is flagged by exchanges.
Exactly. And now you have to explain yourself. CLOAK is not a pool you visit. It is a native on-chain protocol. It's not mixing your funds with others. It is cryptographically shielding your specific asset on the ledger.
So it's less like a laundromat where everyone's clothes are in the same machine, and more like, what? Give me another analogy.
Well, let's use a car analogy. A mixer is like driving your car into a parking garage that has 1,000 exits. The helicopter chasing you might get confused about which exit you took. CLOAK is like pushing a button on your dashboard that turns your car invisible.
Okay.
You aren't mixing with other traffic to hide. You are just mathematically unobservable on the same road you were already on.
I like the invisible car better than the confusing garage.
Me too. And it means you aren't reliant on the size of the crowd or the liquidity in the pool to get your privacy. It is self-contained. It's your privacy generated by your keys.
So let's talk about driving that invisible car. Let's move to Section 2. Shielded transactions. This is the bread and butter.
The meat and potatoes of the protocol, yeah.
If I use CLOA to send money, let's say I want to send you 100 TLOS tokens, what does that actually look like on the Blockchain Explorer compared to a normal, everyday transfer? The source has a before and after that is pretty stark.
It is. It's night and day. So let's look at before. This is the standard public blockchain transaction we've been talking about. The public receipt consists of 3 main data points. First, the sender address. That's you, totally visible. Second, the receiver address. That's me, also visible. And third, the amount. 100 TLOS. Plain as day. Visible.
So anyone with an internet connection can see. Host sent expert 100 telos at 2:15 p.m.
Yes. And they can query the price of Telos at that moment and know exactly the dollar value of our interaction. They know a financial relationship exists between our 2 pseudonyms.
And after, if we use CLOAK, what does the Block Explorer show then?
In the shielded version, the metadata is completely scrubbed. It's just gone. The sender field, it just says hidden. The receiver field, hidden. And the amount, also hidden.
The amount is hidden too. That feels significant. I feel like some protocols only hide the sender and receiver.
It is absolutely vital, because even if you hide the who, if you don't hide the what, you still leak data. If I can see that you sent someone, even if I don't know who, an amount, like $5.23487 million, that is a very unique fingerprint.
Right.
I can look for other transactions of that exact size. Or simply knowing that a large amount moved from a smart contract is valuable data for traders. CLOAK hides the who sent, who received, and what happened. The entire story is gone.
The infographic calls this the cloaking effect.
It's complete transaction opacity. And there's a detail in the source text that I think is really important to highlight here. It mentions confidentiality by default.
I saw that. Privacy is the standard, not an option. What does that mean in practice?
This is a lesson the industry learned the hard way from early privacy coins, specifically Zcash. Zcash has brilliant tech, but they made a design choice to make privacy optional. You had transparent addresses, which start with a T, and shielded addresses, which start with a Z.
And let me guess, almost everyone just used the transparent ones because it was easier or the default.
You nailed it. Most exchanges didn't support the shielded ones. Most wallets defaulted to transparent. As a result, the anonymity set, which is just a fancy term for the crowd of people you're hiding in, was very small.
It's not great hiding in a crowd of 3.
Not at all. If only 3 people in a stadium are wearing masks, it's pretty easy to figure out who they are. CLOAK is pushing for a model where privacy is the default state. You don't have to remember to click the Make Private button. It just is. That dramatically increases the size of the anonymity set for everyone.
Now, here's something that actually surprised me in the notes. Usually when we talk about privacy coins, we are talking about fungible tokens, money. Bitcoin, Litecoin, stable coins, things like that. But CLOAK is explicitly talking about NFTs.
Yes, the sources highlight non-fungible assets multiple times.
Why do I need to hide my monkey picture? I mean, isn't the whole point of a high-value NFT to flex? To show it off, look at me, I own this expensive piece of digital art. Why on earth would I want to cloak it?
For the flex, sure, you want it public, you can keep it public, but think about the acquisition phase, or just the security of holding it. Think about the high-stakes world of NFT collecting, or, more importantly, GameFi.
Give me a scenario.
Okay, imagine you are a whale. You're a high-value collector. You decide you want to buy a specific collection of digital land in a metaverse game. If you start buying those land parcels on a public ledger from your known whale wallet.
Everyone sees it. They see Whale Wallet X is sweeping the floor of this collection.
And what do?
They front-run me. They buy up all the cheap listings and jack up the prices.
Exactly. It's called sniping or front-running. They see you coming, they buy the assets before you can, and then they sell them back to you at huge premium. Using a cloaked transaction to acquire the assets prevents this. But also, think about the harassment angle.
Harassment? How so?
If you own a CryptoPunk worth, say, $150,000, and you keep it in your public wallet that's linked to your Twitter, you become a massive target. People will spam you with scam tokens. They will airdrop weird, malicious NFTs into your wallet that are designed to drain your funds if you accidentally interact with them.
The old poison token attack.
Right. Or if your real identity is linked to that wallet, they might try to dox you or even make physical threats to get you to hand over the asset.
So hiding the NFT isn't about being shy. It's about personal operational security. It's physical safety and digital hygiene.
Precisely. It allows you to hold valuable assets without painting a giant glowing target on your back. It prevents people from browsing your inventory like it's a shop window they're planning to rob.
That makes a lot of sense. So we can hide money transfers. We can hide NFTs. But the source material claims CLOAK is a privacy layer for Antelope, not just a privacy wallet. And that brings us to Section 3, which I think is the most complex, but potentially the most revolutionary part of this whole thing. Private dApp interactions.
This is the game changer. This is where CLOAK moves past the capabilities of something like Zcash or Monero.
The source infographic calls this peer-to-contract privacy.
Right. So traditionally, the problem with privacy coins is that they are, well, they're a bit boring.
They're digital mattresses.
Perfect analogy. You can stuff money in them, and you can take money out. That's it. But the modern crypto world, Web3, is about using money. We want to trade on decentralized exchanges, DEXs. We want to lend and borrow on DeFi protocols. We want to play games and earn rewards.
But every time I interact with a dApp, say I want to swap some tokens on a DX, I have to connect my wallet. And the moment I click Connect Wallet,
you sign a transaction, and that transaction is a public record that says, Wallet X interacted with smart contract Y at this time to perform action Z. Boom. Footprint. You just open the curtains on your glass house for everyone to see.
So how does CLOAK fix that? This seems like the hardest problem. If the smart contract needs to know who I am and what I have in order to give me my new tokens, how can I possibly be anonymous? The source mentions vaults and authentication tokens.
Let's break those down because this is a new paradigm. First, the vault. In the CLOAK system, you don't just keep your shielded assets in your pocket, so to speak. You deposit them into a secure, decentralized safety deposit box, the vault. This vault exists on the chain, but it is locked with your private keys in a way that makes its contents completely invisible to the public.
Okay, so my money is in the invisible box. Step 1.
Now, you want to interact with the dApp. You want to play a game. Usually you would log in with your public wallet address, which is like showing your ID. Instead, CLO uses authentication tokens to verify your identity cryptographically without exposing your address.
I need an analogy for this one too.
Think of a nightclub. The standard blockchain way of logging into a dApp is this. You walk up to the door and you show the bouncer your driver's license. He sees your name, your address, your birth date, and he writes it all down on a public clipboard that everyone standing in line can read.
That's terrible for privacy.
The CLOAK way is this. You walk up to the bouncer and you show him a special holographic ticket. The ticket doesn't have your name on it, it has no address. But when the bouncer scans it, a green light flashes. The scan proves, mathematically, that you are over 21 and that you paid the cover charge.
So the bouncer knows I am allowed to be there, but he doesn't know who I am.
Exactly. The source says this allows for identity verification without exposure. You can log in and authorize actions without revealing your personal identity or your main wallet address to the public.
And then once I'm inside the club, once I'm authenticated with a smart contract, what happens when I order a drink, so to speak?
That's private smart contract usage. When you execute a function like swap token A for token B, the inputs to that function are cloaked using those same ZKTs. The public sees that a transaction happened. Someone interacted with the contract, but they can't see the specific instructions or the amounts involved.
The source phrase for this is no public footprint.
Complete anonymity, interactions leave no traceable record. This allows you to, for example, trade on a DEX without revealing your entire trading strategy to the entire market.
Let's pause on that trading aspect because the whale problem is real in DeFi. It's a huge issue. If I am a massive institution, let's say a fund like BlackRock, and I want to buy $1 billion of Bitcoin on a DEX. If I start making those buys from a known wallet,
The market sees it instantly. And bots will front-run you. It's predatory. They see your large buy order in the memory pool before it's even confirmed. They quickly buy ahead of you to drive the price up by a fraction of a cent, and then they immediately sell it to you at that slightly higher price.
with the tax on being transparent.
It's a massive tax. With CLOAK, you could hide the size of your order, the timing, and the fact that it's you buying. It completely levels the playing field. It moves DeFi from a transparent, predator-filled ocean to a more equitable market.
Okay, this is all that. It sounds incredibly high-tech. I mean, we're talking zero-knowledge proofs, vaults, these authentication tokens.
It is. It's cutting-edge cryptography.
Right. And usually, when I hear cutting-edge cryptography, my brain immediately translates that to impossible for a normal person to use.
A nightmare user experience, yeah.
Exactly. It's going to be a command line. I'll have to compile code from GitHub, and I'll probably, I don't know, accidentally delete my entire hard drive in the process.
Yeah.
So how do we actually use this? Section 4 of our outline is about the tooling.
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Because if the UX is terrible, the tech honestly doesn't matter for adoption.
Not at all.
But CLOAK seems to be focusing very heavily on this, which is encouraging. They're building what they call the CLOAK app bundle.
The source infographic shows this bundle. It's a whole suite of tools, not just a wallet.
Right. You have a central dashboard, a token auction interface, the vault we mentioned for managing your shielded assets, and a built-in DEX for exchange and swaps. And it's available on Windows, Ubuntu, and Macaco in beta.
I have to give them credit for the Linux support. Ubuntu 22 and 24 right out of the gate. That tells me they know their audience. The developers and the hardcore privacy advocates, they live on Linux.
It does send a strong signal, but I want to zoom in on the wallet itself because there's a feature here highlighted in a big box that is very specific to this ecosystem. No traditional account needed.
Now, for our listeners who only use Ethereum or Solana, this might sound confusing. They're thinking, what do you mean account? Isn't a wallet an account? We need to explain the weirdness of the Antelope ecosystem here.
Yes, we absolutely do. So on Ethereum, creating an account is free. You just generate a private key on your computer, you get a public address, and you're done. It's just math.
Right, takes 2 seconds.
On Antelope chains like Telos or EOS, an account is a piece of digital real estate. You are literally reserving a unique human-readable name and a row in the blockchain state RAM, its active memory. Because that memory is a scarce resource, it costs money.
You have to pay to create an account. And then you have to stake tokens for CPU and net resources just to have the right to send a transaction.
Exactly. It's a massive friction point for new users. I remember trying to get a friend onto EOS years ago, and I had to pay a couple of dollars just to create his account name for him. He was like, why do I have to pay to join this thing? It's a hurdle.
It's the biggest hurdle in the ecosystem. So when CLOAK says no account needed, they aren't just saving you a click in a setup process. They are fundamentally changing the architecture of the user entry point.
They're removing that initial wall.
So how does it work? If I don't have an account name in the chain's RAM, where is my money? Where do my assets live?
The wallet works as a zero-knowledge signature provider. You don't need a username like my name is Jeff. You don't need to register with the blockchain's resource system to hold and receive Kilo assets. You use your cryptographic keys directly to control your funds within the CLOAK Protocol's smart contracts.
True self-custody, the source calls it. It sounds more like how Bitcoin works, in a way.
It is. It removes that layer of friction. You can receive a private transaction from someone without ever having gone through the painful account creation process on Telos. It eliminates the username-password paradigm entirely.
And the source also says it works independently. What does that mean?
That's crucial for security and trustlessness. It means the wallet generates the complex zero-knowledge proofs locally on your machine.
Okay, why does that matter? Why not just have a powerful server do it for me?
Because it means you aren't trusting a third party with your secret data. If I had to send my secret transaction details to a CLOAK server to be encrypted, well, then the CLOAK server could see my data before it's encrypted. That's a central point of failure.
I'd have to trust them.
By doing the heavy cryptographic lifting locally on your device, the data is shielded before it ever leaves your laptop. The public network only ever sees the final proof, never the underlying data.
Smart. Though, for people who do already have a Telos account, the existing power users, the source mentions Anchor Wallet support.
Yes, and that's important for adoption too. Anchor is the gold standard wallet for the Antelope ecosystem. It's widely trusted. So they are building bridges for existing users to easily move funds into the privacy layer while also offering this no account path for new or pure privacy users. It's the best of both worlds.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because I can feel the tension building. We've been talking for a while now about how great it is that everything is hidden. Invisible cars, untraceable money, hidden identities. It sounds fantastic from a user perspective.
I know where you're going with this. The other side of the coin.
You have to play devil's advocate. If I'm a regulator or a tax auditor or just a concerned citizen, this sounds like a compliance nightmare. It sounds like a purpose-built tool for illicit activity. What if I need to prove I paid someone for a business invoice? What if the IRS audits me and asks, where did this $50,000 come from? And my answer is, sorry, it's in a magic invisible box I can't show you.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly.
You are absolutely right. And this is the single biggest criticism leveled against privacy coins. They are tools for tax evasion and money laundering. And if CLOAK didn't have a good answer for this, I would say it's a non-starter for any kind of mainstream adoption. It would be a niche dark web tool.
But they do have an answer.
They do. And this is where they introduce what might be the most important feature for long-term viability. Section 5, Selective Disclosure.
The source infographic for this is titled Privacy with Control.
This is the feature that arguably separates CLOAK from the first generation of privacy tech.
The infographic shows a really cool visual. It looks like a mixing board in a recording studio, with all the sliders and faders.
Yes. I love that metaphor. You have these faders. On one side, you have privacy. On the other, control. And you have specific data points for a transaction. Transaction ID, recipient name, amount, memo.
And on the image, some of the lights are glowing revealed and some are glowing cloaked.
The concept is that you, the user, are the sovereign owner of your data. By default, all the faders are cranked up to private. No one sees anything. The curtains are drawn. But you have a special tool called viewing keys.
Viewing keys, explain those. What are they?
Think of them as special read-only passwords for your financial data, or like a guest key to your hotel room that only works for one specific door and can't be used to open the minibar. You can generate a viewing key that reveals only the transaction amount for a specific date range. Nothing else.
So I could generate one of these keys and give it to my accountant at tax time.
Exactly. You give the key to your accountant. They can use it to view the numbers they need to do your taxes. They can see the debits and credits, but they can't spend your money. They can't see who you transacted with. And crucially, the rest of the world, the public, the chain analysts, the person on Twitter, still sees absolutely nothing.
So I can be transparent with the IRS, but private from my nosy neighbors.
Correct. Or let's say you're running a charity. You receive donations privately. You want to prove to your donors that you actually sent the relief funds to the intended destination in another country. You can use a viewing key to reveal only that specific outgoing transaction to the public or to a third-party auditor. It proves the money arrived without opening up your entire financial history.
The source slogan for this is confidentiality plus accountability.
That's the balance they're trying to strike. It allows for regulatory compliance. It bridges the gap. It says privacy doesn't mean secrecy from everyone forever. It means I, the owner of the data, get to choose who knows what and when.
It restores the concept of consent. Right now on a public chain, you have zero consent. By the very act of using the chain, you consent to show the world everything you do. CLOAK moves the needle back to user-defined visibility.
Which is how the real world works, by the way. This isn't a new concept. When you use your bank account, the bank knows and the government knows, but your neighbor doesn't know. CLOAK is just trying to replicate that normal, expected level of financial privacy on-chain.
So we've got the tech with ZKPs, we've got the tools with the wallet, and we have the compliance layer with selective disclosure. But who is this actually for? We've touched on whales and gamers, but let's formalize this. Section 6. Use cases.
The source infographic breaks this down into 4 main pillars. And I think we should spend some time on these because this is where the abstract tech becomes real, tangible value for different groups.
Let's start with the first pillar, DeFi apps. We mentioned front-running, which is a big one.
Front-running is the big one for active traders. But there is also the more passive issue of concealing portfolio size. Imagine you are a DAO treasury. You're managing the funds for a big project. You hold $50 million in various tokens. For risk management, you need to rebalance your portfolio, sell some of your ETH, buy some BTC.
Okay. If the market sees a known DAO treasury wallet with $50 million in it start to move funds to an exchange, what happens?
panic selling, or speculation, people on Twitter start screaming, "The whale is dumping! The project is in trouble! The price of your token crashes before you even get to make your trade. You end up losing millions in value just because of the signal your transparent movement sent to the market."
So privacy saves you money. It prevents you from moving the market against yourself.
Literally, it preserves value. Private positions allow institutions, DAOs, and large traders to enter the space without being exploited or causing unintended market panic.
Pillar 2, GameFi and NFT projects. We talked about sniping NFTs, but the source also mentioned something I find fascinating: fair gameplay.
Oh, this is a huge one that people don't think about. Think about any strategy game on the blockchain. A card game like poker or something like Magic. The Gathering. If the cards are NFTs and the blockchain is public,
I can just look up your wallet address on the Block Explorer and see exactly what cards you have in your hand.
the game is broken immediately. It's unplayable. You cannot have games of strategy that rely on imperfect information, like a hidden hand of cards or a fog of war in a strategy game on a public blockchain without a privacy layer. CLOAK fixes this. I can hold the cards, which are NFTs, in my private vault. The game contract knows I have them, but you, my opponent, cannot see them until I choose to play them.
That basically unlocks entire genres of games that were previously impossible to build on-chain in a fair way.
Correct. Fog of War requires privacy. Hidden information requires privacy. It's fundamental to game design.
Pillar 3. DAOs in voting. This one really caught my eye. The source says it can reduce coercion.
This is a huge unsolved issue for decentralized governance. Imagine you work for a crypto company. The company is run as a DAO. There is a vote on the CEO's salary, or a vote on a controversial new strategic direction for the company.
And the vote is on-chain, so it's transparent.
Which means the CEO, your boss, can go on the Block Explorer and see exactly which wallet address, which employee voted no.
Oh, I see Bob from accounting voted against my raise.
Yeah.
Interesting. We should talk about Bob's performance review.
Exactly. That creates immense social and professional pressure to vote with the herd, or to vote how your boss wants you to vote. It kills honest dissent. It kills real democracy. CLO allows for anonymous ballot submission.
How does that work with the auth tokens?
You would use one of those authentication tokens we talked about.
Right.
You prove to the voting contract, I am an employee, I hold one governance token, I have the right to vote, and I have not voted yet. The system accepts your vote. But it doesn't record who you are, just that a valid vote was cast. The CEO sees 10 votes for no, but he doesn't know who cast them.
That enables true democratic freedom within an organization. That's incredibly powerful.
It protects the voter from retaliation, which is a cornerstone of any functioning democracy.
And the fourth and final pillar they list: sensitive business data.
This is the big enterprise use case. Think about supply chains.
Right. Let's say I'm a company like Apple, and I'm paying a supplier for a new type of screen on the blockchain for transparency.
Your competitor, Samsung, is watching. If they can see exactly how many screens you're ordering and how much you are paying your suppliers per unit, they know your production numbers. They know your margins. They know your cost of goods sold. That is invaluable competitive intelligence that you're just broadcasting for free.
No serious business puts its trade secrets on a public billboard.
So again, privacy isn't just about hiding from the cops. It's about not leaking your entire business strategy to your competitors.
In fact, many businesses can't use public blockchains because of data protection laws like GDPR in Europe. If you put customer data on a public, immutable chain, you are likely violating privacy laws. CLOAK could be the bridge that makes blockchain legally viable for handling sensitive enterprise data. Okay, I'm sold on the concept. I see the need. The glass house is dangerous and inefficient. We need curtains. Now, usually this is the part of the deep dive where we say, this is a great idea on paper. Maybe we'll see it in 2028. But Section 7 says we can try this today.
Yes, but with a massive asterisk next to it, a big flashing neon warning sign.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the catch?
It is in a testing phase. This is a public demo. It is running on the Telos testnet, not the main network.
The source infographic gives us the steps. How to try the demo.
Step 1, visit app.cloak.today. That's the web portal.
Step 2, install the CLOAK Wallet. You choose your operating system: Windows, Ubuntu, Mac.
Step 3, get started on Telos. You'll need to create a test account on the Telos testnet, which is free.
And step 4, this is the most important part, use the testnet faucet.
Yes. For the love of God, listeners, please listen to this. Do not try to send your real-life savings, your real Telos, or any other real crypto to this wallet yet. It is a testnet. The source says the faucet will give you free test tokens, 1,000 CLOAK tokens, and 500 Telos testnet tokens.
It's monopoly money.
It is play money.
Yeah.
But it works just like the real thing on the back end. It proves the math works. You can try the shielded transfers. You can send invisible money to a friend who also sets up the test wallet. You can experiment with the vault.
And the text source we have adds a very clear safety warning. Expect UX rough edges.
It's early software. It's an alpha or a beta. It might be buggy. The buttons might look weird. The interface might not be perfectly intuitive yet. The goal right now is for developers and curious users to test the core cryptography and the transaction flow. They want you to go in and try to break things. That's what a testnet is for.
So if you are a learner, as they say, who likes to be on the bleeding edge, who wants to see what the future of on-chain privacy looks like before it's all polished and consumer ready, this is your chance.
Exactly. Be a pioneer. Help find the bugs.
All right, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from the panopticon and the total surveillance state of the public ledger all the way to the shield of zero-knowledge proofs. We've looked at the invisible car of CLOAK Protocol.
It's a lot to digest, a lot of new concepts.
Let's try to summarize the core value proposition here. We are essentially combining three powerful things that usually don't exist together.
First, the speed of Antelope.
Yeah.
You get fast block times, high throughput, and very low transaction costs.
Second, the privacy of Zcash. You get the gold standard for math-based anonymity, the Zk snarks.
And third, the utility of smart contracts.
Yeah.
You get the ability to actually do things with your private assets, DeFi, games, DAOs, not just hoard them in a digital mattress.
It's the trifecta: speed, privacy, and utility.
And if they can pull this off, and that is a big if, because this is incredibly hard engineering, it solves one of the biggest bottlenecks holding back crypto adoption. It makes the technology usable for real people and real businesses who have a normal expectation of privacy.
And I want to go back to that "so what" we started with. That source infographic had that phrase at the end, financial freedom protected.
That's the core value. It's not about hiding crimes. We have to get that narrative out of our heads. It's about the basic human right to not be watched and analyzed 24/7.
We talked about the glass house. CLOAK is essentially saying, you can have a house with windows. We love sunlight and transparency, but you should also have the right to buy curtains.
And you should have the right to close those curtains when you're having dinner with your family or when you're making a sensitive business deal. That isn't criminal. It's just human. It's normal.
It transforms the blockchain from a tool of perfect surveillance into a tool for secure private infrastructure.
Precisely.
Now, here's a final thought I want to leave you with, listeners. And this is something to chew on as you go about your week.
Go for it.
Right now, the entire internet economy, Web 2, Google, Facebook, all of it, is built on one fundamental business model: data harvesting.
The old saying, if the product is free, you are the product.
Exactly. They track you across the web to build a profile on you so they can sell you ads. That's the engine.
True.
And public blockchains almost accidentally supercharged that model. They made the data trail even more public. They made it permanent and searchable for everyone, not just for a giant corporation like Google.
It's public by default. The ultimate tracking cookie that you can never delete.
But what if protocols like CLOAK succeed? What if privacy becomes the default setting for Web3? If we move to a private by default internet, what happens to that data economy?
That is the multi-billion, maybe trillion-dollar question.
If I truly own my data, and I only reveal it when I want to, using those selective disclosure viewing keys, do I start charging for it?
It shifts the power dynamic completely from the platform to the user.
Does the advertising model just collapse? Do we move to a world where I say, okay, Coca-Cola, you want to see my transaction history to know if I buy soda? You can. It's going to cost you $5.
A zero-knowledge economy. Instead of data being extracted from you without your meaningful consent, it is volunteered by you, selectively for a price. It turns you from a resource to be mined into a partner in the transaction.
It's a fascinating and, frankly, much more equitable future to imagine. A world where you hold the keys not just to your money, but to your own digital life.
It certainly is.
If you want to dive deeper into the math, or maybe you're one of those people who actually enjoys reading white papers, we know you're out there. Head over to cloak.today. Or if you want to get your hands dirty, try the demo at app.cloak.today.
And remember, use the faucet. Don't use real money yet. Please stay safe out there.
Good advice. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.